Something massive could be happening with one organization that currently doesn't even have their own stadium, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's perfect and why I actually think it could happen. Let's go talk about it. The Tampa Bay Rays, those pesky old Rays, they became an expansion team in 1998, went through a rebrand to just the Rays 10 years later, and were in line for a new stadium until last year when disaster struck. Now, a little while back, it looked like the city of St. Petersburg and the Rays had reached a deal and had a $1.3 billion plan in place. However, the hurricane from last year caused a ton of damage, ripped the roof off of Tropicana, and kind of put a snag in those plans. St. Pete did approve some money to start repairs, and repairs should be finished by next season. In the meantime, the Rays ended up getting help from the Yankees to move to their spring training complex in Tampa, Steinbrenner Field, for the 2025 season. Now, it's not the most ideal. The stadium only fits around 11,000 people, which is surprisingly even less than what the Rays were already averaging in attendance every year. Never thought that could actually happen. During this time, however, the Rays ended up backing out of the $1.3 billion deal to get a new stadium in St. Pete because of what they said was an issue with delays in legislative approval due to the hurricane damage. This would cause them to have to cover more of the cost than they initially planned, since delays cause fees to add up. So long story short, the Rays' future is uncertain at this time because their lease at Tropicana Field ends soon, and obviously there's no plan in place for a new stadium in St. Petersburg, along with there being issues between the Rays and the city of St. Pete since the Rays backed out of the deal. It looks like they could be at serious risk of relocation. You might be thinking, why not just move to the place that's already in their name, Tampa? Now, for me personally, I think the Rays simply going to Tampa would be a great idea. It's a much better location than St. Petersburg since it's 30 minutes closer inward to Florida without traffic. Now, with traffic, you're looking at closer to an hour and even more, which is a nightmare, especially for people closer to Tampa getting off work at, say, 5 or 6 o'clock and games starting around 7. Another reason it's a great idea to go to Tampa is there's simply more population there, about a few million more than St. Petersburg. There's plenty of business, and people there are hungry for sports. You got the Bucks, who have a loyal fan base, and the Lightning, who have one of the best average attendances in all of hockey. However, there are a couple of problems here. Now, the first is the Rays simply haven't been able to get the financial commitments to build a stadium there up to this point, and the owner, Stu Sternberg, has expressed concern with the long-term commitment of keeping up with the cost of having a stadium in Tampa. Now, it sounds like it could be him just being cheap, but I also wonder if maybe he doesn't want to move to Tampa because he doesn't want certain investors getting involved, or perhaps the other way around. Perhaps investors don't want to get involved with him. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's causing owners in Major League Baseball, along with Rob Manfred himself, to reportedly pressure Sternberg to sell the team, with Major League Baseball even going as far as potentially taking away some revenue sharing from them, according to Evan Drellich of The Athletic. Drellich has also reported that a couple of groups have interest in buying the Rays, with one of them involving a Tampa area businessman, Dan Doyle Jr., and another involving family members of the 49ers owner and former Yankees minority owner, Joe Malloy. Now, Manfred has said he believes Ybor City in Tampa would be a good location, but there's one problem with that. Recently, a developer there who controls a big chunk of land says there's no room since there's already plans for other businesses there, unless they plan on building a tiny stadium. Now, of course, they could find another spot in Tampa. People have said the fairgrounds there could be a good spot. This leads us to another location and the main focus of this video, a location that I think could be a serious threat to land the Rays, and that's Orlando. Remember a few years back when a group called the Orlando Dreamers popped up and wanted to bring baseball to Orlando? You know, the ones with the logo that looks like it belongs to an ice cream parlor? Well, the leader of that group, former Orlando Magic co-founder and general manager Pat Williams, passed away last year, and it seemed like things had gone quiet on that front for them until recently. Hall of Famer Barry Larkin became the Major League Baseball ambassador for the Dreamers, and recently they announced something pretty substantial. They now have $1.5 billion in financial commitments from investors and are in the works for raising another $1 billion to put towards a new stadium. This would be right near SeaWorld, which is about 20 minutes from Walt Disney World. We also got word on who these investors are, with the lead guy being Rick Workman, the founder of a dental chain called Heartland Dental, who has a net worth worth of $1.3 billion, according to Forbes. There's also John Morgan, the founder of the Morgan & Morgan law firm, whose family has a net worth over $1.5 billion. The fact that the Dreamers have this kind of backing is extremely substantial. Jim Schnorth, the co-founder of the Orlando Dreamers, said this recently: "I think it sends a signal to Major League Baseball and as well to the Orlando community that we have accomplished the really key aspects of the financing necessary to bring Major League Baseball here to Orange County." He also addressed the stadium dilemma in Tampa Bay, saying, "We're watching the situation over there very closely," referring to the Rays' struggles with finding a new stadium in St. Petersburg. "We are confident Orlando is the best site for a Major League Baseball franchise going forward." And I am a bit biased, but I do reside in the Central Florida area, but I agree with him, and I've been saying this for a while now. I think Orlando would be a great spot for the Rays to move to if they did move out of Tampa. Sure, there's other cities looking to get a team like Portland in Oregon, Raleigh in North Carolina, and Nashville in Tennessee, but when looking at the numbers, the state of Florida has been getting more people over the last 5 years, just under 2 million people over that time. When comparing the 4 states, Florida has increased by 8% in the last 5 years compared to North Carolina at 5.8%, Tennessee at 4.5%, and Oregon under 1%. This probably makes Manfred very happy, to be honest, because he has stated he wants to have 2 Major League Baseball teams in Florida. Now, when it comes to Orlando compared to those other cities, they have seen the biggest increase in population percent-wise, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, right around 5.5% since 2020, compared to Raleigh at 4.5%, Nashville at 4.7%, and Portland has actually lost people since 2020. And sure, both Nashville and Raleigh currently have bigger populations, but Orlando and Florida in general has seen the most growth, and that's a good sign for the future. Now you might be thinking, Robbie, cities like Raleigh and Nashville still have more people living there though. Well, sure, but it's not just the people moving to Florida, it's all the tourism they get as well, especially in the Orlando area. They have one of the busiest airports in the United States, with so many people visiting from all over to go to places like Disney World and all the other theme parks and attractions. Last year, both Nashville and Raleigh had anywhere from 10 to 20 million visitors, but Orlando had over 70 million. Now, don't get me wrong, Tampa is a very solid sports city with the Buccaneers and the Lightning, but Orlando has a pretty solid sports town as well, with loyal fan bases for the Orlando Magic in basketball and Orlando City for soccer. Now, for both teams, they finished in the top 15 in attendance this past season in their respective sports. There's also less competition in Orlando, considering Tennessee and North Carolina are huge on college sports, while Portland is close to the baseball teams in California and Seattle. You could also look at the media coverage, with Orlando being ahead of both Nashville and Raleigh when it comes to the size of their media markets. Last year, according to the Sports Business Journal, the Orlando area had 1.9 TV homes, while Raleigh had 1.3 billion and Nashville had just over 1 million. Now, Tampa does have the bigger media market than Orlando, but if they can't figure out something in Tampa, then Orlando would be the next best option. So to wrap this up, I think with the issues revolving around the Rays and the city of St. Petersburg, complications with moving to a prime spot in Ybor City in Tampa, along with Manfred wanting to keep the Rays in Florida, I think Orlando could be a serious contender here. Now, I think Tampa would still be my odds-on favorite as of right now, but if Ybor City is indeed not going to be a good location for them and they can't find something outside of there, and with Orlando already seeming set to go with investor backing and a stadium location, things I think could get very interesting. Who knows? Maybe in 5 years, we could be saying the Orlando Rays. But everyone, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Where do you see the Rays eventually playing baseball? But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.